This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. So last night I was thinking, last night was Erev Chanukah. I figure it's Chaf Daled Kislev. Chaf Daled Kislev. I say to myself, Chaf Daled Kislev. I once learned something about Chaf Daled Kislev. What was it again? So I opened up. I remembered in the Navi Chagai, a few of the nevuos of Chagai Navi were Chaf Daled Kislev. I remembered, I went to Rebbe Reisman, came to a neighborhood, and even at the Aguda convention, his what did he speak that Klal Yisrael needs to do? What did he say? That Klal Yisrael needs to learn the Navi Chagai. That was his message, basically. People have to know the Navi Chagai. So remember, in Chagai, there's something about Chaf Daled Kislev. So I opened up the Chagai. Every single thing, Hashem came to Chagai, Chaf Daled Kislev. Hashem came to Chagai again, Chaf Daled Kislev. The whole Navi is the things that happen on the 24th day of Kislev. Like Chaf Daled. I have to open up the Siddur of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, because in the Siddur of Rabbi Yaakov Emden it tells you the significance of every day on the calendar. And sure enough, Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes, on Chaf Daled Kislev, the Rebbeinu Shalom came to Chagai Hanavi, and they made the foundation of the second Beis Hamikdash on Chaf Daled Kislev. Okay, what's that going to do for us? What does that have to do with Chanukah? But to me, there had to be some connection that they made the foundation of the second Beis Hamikdash on the 24th day of Kislev that has to have something to do with Chanukah. So then Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes, look in the Maruk Tzia. The Maruk Tzia is Rabbi Yaakov Emden's Sefer on Halacha and Orach Chaim. So I got out the Maruk Tzia, and Rabbi Yaakov Emden there says that in his opinion, there's a new reason for Chanukah. Nobody ever said this reason before. He's going to be Megala, a new reason for Chanukah. He says like this. If they set the foundation of the second Beis Hamikdash on Chaf Daled Kislev, that means that's the day they poured the foundation. So when did they make the inauguration of the second Beis Hamikdash? He says, Mistama, they made it the next day. I mean, the day after you pour the foundation, so you inaugurate the future building. So he says, it's not the Pshat. Chanukah is a celebration of the re-inauguration in the times after the Yevanim were Machalal, after they desecrated the second Beis Hamikdash. It's that the inauguration of the second Beis Hamikdash, 200 years before Chanukah, happened on the 25th day of Kislev. He says, there's a shaila in halacha, whether the sudas that we have on Chanukah are sudas mitzvah or sudas rishus, and most poskim say it's not a sudas mitzvah. Just because a miracle happened on that day, it's going to make it a sudas mitzvah. Says Rabbi Yaakov, there could be the reason why it is a sudas mitzvah is because the second Beis Hamikdash was nischanech 200 years before the miracle of Chanukah, and out the chinuch of the second Beis Hamikdash, it would make it a sudas mitzvah. And then he says the davar nifla. He says the Rambam paskins, and we paskin this way. Are you allowed to bring karbanos if there's no Beis Hamikdash? Anybody know? The Rambam writes explicitly. Avada it's mutar. Rambam says makrivin kol hakarbanos kuloi afal pi she'ein habayis banoi. That's the lashon of the Rambam. Makrivin what? On the makom hamizbeach, you don't need a mizbeach, you just need the makom. So there's a tshuva in the Binyan Tzion, Rabbi Yaakov Ellinger, tshuva aleph. He says the reason we don't do it is because we don't know the precise makom. But that's only it's a chesaron in yediyah. But when they knew the precise makom, you don't need the Beis Hamikdash itself. All you need is the makom hamizbeach. That's why in the 19th century there was a big controversy. Reb Tzvi Hersh Kalisher and other gedolim wanted to reinstitute hakravas karbanos and carbon pesach, tuma hutra b'tzibur. So maybe you could bring carbon pesach. It was a big, Rebbe Eiger was involved in that. But, so if Makrivim Karkaban is Kulan, L'chayra, you could light the menorah without the Beis HaMikdash. Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden, if they laid the foundation on the 24th day of Kislev, when was the first Hadlakas HaMenorah during the times of the second Beis HaMikdash? 25th day of Kislev, because you have to light the menorah at night. So they poured the cement the 24th of Kislev. That means they lit the menorah the first time, the 25th night of Kislev. So Chanukah wasn't just that, hey, we got into the Beis Hamikdash and we rededicated it, and we happened to light the menorah on the 25th day of Kislev. No, since time immemorial, the 25th day of Kislev had already been designated as a yom to inaugurate a Beis Hamikdash. In fact, that was already the first time they lit the menorah in 200 years earlier. Okay. What?
Is there such a thing on the first Beis Hamikdash also?
No, we don't. And in fact, in the times of the first Beis Hamikdash, it was ready in Chodesh Cheshvan, I believe, and but not similar to what happened in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so I want to discuss a lamda shashayla in Rebbe Eiger, Siman Yud Gimel. Okay, the shayla is like this: It's the 8th night of Chanukah, and you forgot to make a bracha. So you lit. Why did you forget? I don't know. You're very distracted. You forgot to turn off your phone. Okay, right? So the first halacha, what's the first halacha of Chanukah? Is turn off your phone. If your phone is on, then I don't know. Could be your pater from lighting. You could ask your Rav privately whether you're chayiv or pater if your phone is on. You can have your phone, but you left it on, and you forgot to make a bracha. And you lit the first candle, second candle, then you realize you forgot to make a bracha. Can you now make a bracha on the remaining candles?
It's only 8th night, any night, right?
Yeah, but you're right. So Zemi is related to Rebbe Akiva Eiger. He wants to know, why did Rebbe Akiva Eiger have to say the 8th night? It has nothing to do. I got it in, okay? So
anyone who didn't know.
If anyone wants to know how, I have about 15 pages by my seat, right? So anyway, so it could be any night, right? And it's the 4th night. The vart is, you already lit the Ikar mitzvah. You already mekayim the Ikar mitzvah. Now the additional candles are just Hiddur mitzvah. Can you, basically the shaila now is, can you make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah? We know you make a bracha on the Ikar mitzvah. Can you make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah? So let's see it inside. Rebbe Akiva Eiger says, Al derech she'elasav, mi shehidlik ner Chanukah b'leil ches. You lit ner Chanukah on the 8th night. B'shachach levarich al hadlakasa. Forgot to make the bracha. V'rak koydem shehidlik kulan. Today's Shiur is sponsored by Moshe Renner, Le'iloi Nishmas, Tzvi Nachum ben Yitzchak Chaim Friedman, who was Nebuch cut off in B'chatzi Yamav, Neshama Shav Aliyah, Shbi Yomei Tzosher, for all of Klal Yisrael, Abi Yaskal Tzedek. Okay, sorry, I didn't get that in the beginning. V'rak koydem shed lekulam, before he lit all of them, Niskar da'adayin loy birach. He forgot that he didn't make a bracha. Im yeshol levarach elai. That's the Shah Rebbe Akiva Eiger, right? You lit a candle, and now you have, let's say, 7 to go. It doesn't matter, 7. 1 to go, right? There's no nafkamina. Can you make a bracha? So Rebbe Akiva Eiger starts like this. First paragraph we say outside. It says Rebbe Akiva Eiger, what's halacha b'chlal if you don't light the menorah and you're passing by somebody's house and you see them light the menorah? So do you make a bracha? Which bracha do you make? You make shasanisim and you make a shachiyanu. You can't make lahadlik. Lahadlik is a brachas ha-mitzvah on a ma'isa mitzvah. You can't make lahadlik. But if I didn't light the menorah and I'm walking by and I see somebody else who lit, I can make shasanisim and shachiyanu. Says Rebbe Akiva Eiger, if I could make shasanisim and shachiyanu on someone else's menorah, I could make it on my own menorah. Meaning, if I saw someone who already lit and I didn't light, and I could say Shasanisim and Shachianu, certainly I who already lit, it's my menorah. I forgot to make the bracha initially. I'm looking at the Ner Echad, the first Ner. I could definitely make the bracha, even if I don't light more Neras. I can make it after the fact. I can make Shasanisim and I can make a Shachianu. Even though the Bach Paskins, by the way, that not every time you pass by a menorah could you make Shasanisim and Shachianu, the Bach Paskins. That if my wife lights for me at home, if I'm away, I'm at work, and I'm not going to come back until I'm not going to come back that night. Why? That's, I don't know, I'm not going to answer that, okay? And your wife's going to light for you, which is a halacha, so that then you don't make a bracha, shasanisim and shachiyanu, when you see someone else's menorah, because the fact that your wife is lighting for you covers your shasanisim and your hadlik. But in this case, nobody made a bracha for you. So if nobody made a bracha for you, somebody you have to make shasanisim and shachiyanu, and therefore, Paschals Rebbe Akiva Eiger, out shasanisim, out shachiyanu. If you forget to make it initially, you can make it after. Okay?
In this case, where you're not going to light.
In what?
In this case, when you're not going to light.
Or you lit already.
I know, I lit. No, in this case, I lit the first candle.
No, when you see somebody else's.
Right. That's where I'm.
Light, someone should make it then.
Correct. Right. Right. It's talking about where either I'm not going to light, because I don't have the guy's homeless. He doesn't have a menorah. He doesn't have it. He'll make shasanisim and shachiyanu when he sees somebody else. But if his wife is lighting for him, there is an opinion that he will not do that. Fine. But now here.
In that case where you walk by, you see somebody's menorah lit, you make shasanisim, make shechiyanu. Let's say he's a homeless guy. He wins the lottery, then I go advise the menorah. Can he now make the hadlik without?
Yes.
Make another bracha. Each bracha has its own.
Right. It's not right. Right. In other words, he can't make shasanisim.
Right.
Now the shaila is tonight, the guy who lights the menorah in shul. It's a big shaila. So he makes lahadlik. He can make lahadlik again. He makes shasanisim. He can make shasanisim again because there's one mitzvah in the shul and one mitzvah at home. The shachiyanu is the problem. If he's going to make the shachiyanu here, how could he go home and make another shachiyanu? I mean, you can't make 2 shachiyanus on the same mitzvah. So that's why the rabbi usually likes to wiggle out of lighting the menorah the first night, because to go home and not to make a shachianu the first night is like, it's not Chanukah if you don't make that shachianu the first night. But look, what?
A few weeks ago I gave that share.
Oh yeah? You gave that? When I was here, Yossi gave a gavaldig shir.
Didn't you volunteer
What?
for the menorah that share?
Yeah.
We came after that the family didn't say Shechiyanu.
So you can be moitzi them. You can be moitzi
So if you
them.
by yourself, then you can't.
Right.
Find somebody that's not going to light at home. Or
Okay.
have somebody be
So, but the thing is, what do you mean if the family didn't hear? We paskin mahajin, everyone lights. So they don't need you to be moitzi them.
Yeah, but you have to deal with
Unless your wife relies on you.
That's what he got stick on that.
The Pasha says then your wife should say the bracha. Right? Because the halacha is a baki. Yeah, your wife should be moitzi you. Okay. Be it as it may, here we go. So now the shaila really is, what about in the bracha of lahadlik ner shel Chanukah? Could you make the bracha lahadlik ner shel Chanukah after you already were yotzei the main mitzvah, and now you only have additional candles to light? Okay, so Rebbe Eiger says like this, l'chayra, you could bring a right, the shaila is, do you make a bracha on hiddur? We know you make a bracha on the ikar mitzvah, could you make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah? So let's think for a minute. Do we ever find a scenario that you make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah? Says Rebbe Eiger, l'chayra, it's pasha, that we know we do make a bracha on hiddur. What's the proof? I light the menorah, then, my kid lights the menorah, my son lights the menorah. By the way, does your daughter light the menorah? Does your daughter light the menorah? Either. So it's like this. Does your wife light the menorah? You know that some hold that your wife has to make a bracha. Why? Why not? Well, I might see her. What do you mean you might see her? You can't be might see someone in a mitzvah shabagufay. So some hold, okay, our mitzvah is, the wife doesn't, the Mishnah Berurah has a chiddush. The Mishnah Berurah's chiddush is ner, that ishtay kugufay. Everyone says pashtas. Yeah, ishtay kugufay, of course. Ishtay kugufay doesn't apply anywhere. When do we ever say ishtay kugufay? That you do a mitzvah, your wife's not there, and the fact that I did it, I'm might see her. But that's a chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah.
No matzah and pesach for her?
Right. It's a chiddush nifla that we say ishtay kugufay on their menorah. But that's our Masara found in the Mishnah Berurah. What?
It's issue based.
Right, on the
I understand, but I have a question. Your kid is lighting. Why is your kid lighting? What do you mean chinuch? Chinuch on what?
it's more piercing. It's pursuing these.
Your kid doesn't make kiddush. Some people do, but la halacha, if you want to know what's correct, is that he shouldn't. That b'rov am hajjas melech. So why does your kid? Because he's saying we're going to do mahajim and amhajim that everyone lights. So why is your wife different? Ishtay kugufay. That's a chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah.
So halacha if you travel and can the whole family stays for during Chanukah somewhere else, so you should not be lighting, but we do it because.
What? Where are you going? Where are you going?
No, you
What?
go to your
What's the
father.
difference if you go?
I'm joking.
No,
What?
you go to your father. So you should
And,
not be lighting, but you light.
No, you do.
Mahadrim.
Yeah, you should not be maker. Then your potter. Maker. Then your kids don't light. It's only mahadrin. Okay. So, but fine. The wives don't light. What about girls? Chasam Sofer writes, girls don't light. Chasam Sofer writes, girls don't light. Zemi is a shtickle related to Chasam Sofer, right? Girls don't light. Why? Because since they used to light outside, and when they used to light outside, it was not sanua for the woman to be outside doing the mitzvah. So even when they packed it back in, they kept it the original takana. That's many Hasidim have that minhag, but I think most who follow the Mishnah Berurah, the girls do light. Over bar mitzvah, under bar mitzvah, there's no, if you're not following the Chasam Sofer, there's no, as far as I know, there's no chiluk. What? Bas mitzvah, right, thank you. So, but the shaila is, my kid, whether he's a boy, he's 13, he's 10, he's going to make a bracha. Why is he going to make a bracha? We already yotze the ikar mitzvah. Elamai, what does he want to do? Mahadrin. Why is he making a bracha? You can make a bracha on Mahadrin? Says Rabbi Eiger, if your kid is making a bracha, even though you're already yotzei the ikar mitzvah, that's a raya, you make a bracha on Mahadrin. So in this scenario, where it's the 8th night and I already lit one candle, and now the additional candles are only Mahadrin, l'chor it's a raya brura that you can make a bracha on Mahadrin. Says Rebbe Eiger, it's not a raya. Why is it not a raya? Says Rebbe Eiger, chiddush oyam v'noya, beautiful chiddush. That the fact that my kid makes a bracha is not a raya, make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah. Because when my kid lights, for him it's not Hiddur Mitzvah, it's Me'ikr, he's Mechuyev to light the menorah. Listen carefully. Why? Because since the halacha is that Mahadrin is a good thing to do, once you decide to do Mahadrin, then you have in mind not to be Yotzei with the Baal HaBayis. Once you have in mind not to be Yotzei with the Baal HaBayis, you're Mechuyev to do it. Once you're Mechuyev to do it, you need to make a bracha.
What happens to the Rabban then?
What?
Then what happens to the Rabban? Like Kiddush.
1 second. But the din of Mahadrin, you're right, the din of Mahadrin by menorah overrides B'roi Vam Hajas Melech. There is no din of Mahadrin by Kiddush, and therefore we go with B'roi Vam Hajas Melech. Says Rabbi Eiger, now this is an amazing Chiddush, Rabbi Eiger is saying. He's saying, I would have thought, why is my kid lighting the menorah? Mahadrin. No! Once he decides to light the menorah, then he has in zin not to be yotzei with me. I have in mind I'm not being moitzi him. Once I'm not being moitzi him, he's not being yotzei with me. He's mechuyev to light the menorah. So his bracha is not aus mahadrin, it's meikar hadin. So it comes out, I always wondered, according to Rabbi Eiger, comes out that we don't really do mahadrin. Is it really mahadrin? How is it mahadrin? If I have in mind not to be yotzei with the Baal HaBayis, then I'm a chiyuv to do it. I'm not doing a hiddur, I'm doing a chiyuv. I guess the hiddur is to have in mind not to be yotzei so that I could do it myself. That is the mahadran. But Rabbi Eiger points out it's not a proof that we make a bracha on hiddur, because at the end of the day, once you're removing yourself from what the Baal HaBayis does, now you're mechuyev b'davar, and now your bracha is meikradin.
Question?
Sure.
When you, I'm just trying to understand. So you have 8 candles in front of you.
Yeah.
So I know in front of me is I'm going to do Mahadran. I make the Hadlaka.
Yeah.
Does the Hadlaka end with my first Nera? Continues all the way to the 8th. So therefore it never ended, so I can make another bracha because the Hadlaka
No.
Chanukah didn't end.
The answer is the Iker hadin ended.
Only one candle.
What? No, you're saying Heider is it's not a Heider anymore. It's a Chiyuv now.
No, I'm saying that when your kids light, it's a chiyuv.
So the 8th, after the first one, there's no... I'm saying it's not
Once I lit the first candle,
it's not an extension to all 8 to Hadlaka?
it is an extension. It's the bracha is going on all of them. However,
what's
one,
stopping that bracha on
one-
the one?
but he didn't make a bracha.
Right, so now why can't you make
So he lit the first candle.
Yeah.
He's already yotzei meikar hadin.
He did the mitzvah already.
Now the additional candles he's light are just to be moisif to
It's
get
not
hiddur.
considered an extension of that.
You mean an
Hadlaka?
extension of the ikar hadin?
Yeah.
He's still doing something. You're saying
Yotzei
if you bite into a
Yotzei
cookie and
after
not make a
first.
mezainis, and then you chew, you can still make a mezainis. You're still eating the cookie.
Like, could you extend Iker Adin to 8, and now I need to have 8 instead of 1?
No, because I don't need to have 8. Just because I'm mechavein to light 8. Let's say I could change my mind. Let's say I have in mind I'm going to light 8, and they say, you know what? Ataka in the middle. Somebody brought me my stocks and they went down after I lit the first one. My stocks went down and I can't afford it anymore. So I don't have to light them.
Not that you have to light it, but is that, when I'm lighting it, what mitzvah is that? Is it a Hadlaka mitzvah? Is it a Mahadran mitzvah?
It's a Mahadran
Is it
mitzvah.
both?
It's
So
a
that's
Mahadran
a different
mitzvah.
mitzvah. So my 8th candle, I'm getting a different schar.
It's a hiddur of the Iker Hadin, correct. Right.
Okay.
The first candle, I get the schar of the Iker. Right, in Olam Haba. In other words, in Olam Haba, so then the first candle, they're going to give you a $2 bill, and each additional candle will give you a $1 bill. Right? Right?
Why are you yotzef with the first candle if you never made the bracha? Meaning you lit, but you didn't. We spoke about yesterday having the right kavanah when you're lighting it.
So
you didn't even make the bracha. So I lit candle 1. So Chara should be Iker, mitzvah should be Mekai,
Right.
but I never had the real das until I remembered. I have to make a bracha. So now when I'm up to the second candle, I should make the bracha. That should be really my first candle.
So Lamar Zagan, the guy, had the right kavanah before he lit the first candle. He just
bracha had the right kavanah. How could you say
he
that?
missed the
Because he
bracha,
didn't have the right
he-
kavanah. If he would have made the bracha. Now that I'm lighting 2, the second
bracha.
candle, now I make the bracha. That's my first candle.
brachas and
I just wanted to know the mechanics.
yeah, that's the pashtus over here.
And you didn't make the bracha, you're still yotzei?
Yeah. What's halacha if you put on tefillin and you don't make a bracha? You get the mitzvah? Of course. You didn't lose it. The only thing, brachas are not ma'akev. Brachas are not ma'akev. The brachas, now there are those who say that,
We
you
say
know,
that a bracha has to go on something, on an
the
action.
bracha, so here the question is, could it go on the action of lighting the additional candles? So the shaila is, do you make a bracha on hiddur? So Rebbe Eiger says, in his opinion, that's a machlokes haposkim. Why? Because there's a shaila in the Pri Chadash. Well, here's a little bit of a different shaila. It's the 7th night. Yeah, you hear this?
The easiest way is just blow it out and make a bracha and do it again. Like, you didn't do
No.
it, you just blow it
You
out.
already lit it.
You go to the mitzvah. If you lit the candle and then you say, "Oy vey, I have to leave. Let me blow it out." You're yotze already.
Even that without the Shiur, yeah.
It has enough oil to light a half hour,
okay.
but I have to leave, so I want to blow it out.
You gotta go after a minute, right? So you already go to, you can't just go and
Purposeful action.
No. So we don't do that. We don't blow it out. But if you did, let's say you're yotze.
You
Okay.
realize you forgot to make a bracha. Can you blow it out and go back and light the first candle and make a bracha?
No.
Just make a bracha.
No.
Can you open a window?
It's the same question.
What's a mitzvah?
You light
Could be
it.
goyim?
You open window. The light goes off,
almost a loop.
and now you.
No, you're ready yotze. You're ready yotze the mitzvah.
You already
No time
use it for a
machine.
second?
There's no time machine.
What?
Once you light the candle,
You lit the candle. No, you got it. What are you gonna do? You can't. You ready yotze the kradim.
But it should be lit for 30 minutes.
It should be able to be lit. So it was able to, and now you decided to pull it out.
Ah, okay.
Okay, the mitzvah is not that it lights for 30 minutes, the mitzvah is that it's able to light. Okay, we got to move. So the shayla is like this. It's 7th night of Chanukah, but you got far blungent because, of course, your phone was on, and it was the 6th, and you lit 6. And you lit 6. Yeah? And then after you lit 6, you write, Oy vey, I knew I should have listened, I knew I should have turned off my phone. And I realized I have one more candle to light. You hear the shayla? It's almost exactly the same. It's the 7th night, but you got far blungent, and you lit 6. And then after you lit 6, you realize, you know what, I really need to light another one. So then when I light the 7th, do I make a bracha?
It's only hit there.
We already said in the beginning, if you don't need to have them on for all the candles, you just light it. What's the difference?
So 1 second.
According to Rabbi, we already said that the hiddur, you don't make a bracha, and only because you're not mechuyev in the first part.
Right. So no, in other words, Rabbi Eiger is trying to find a case where the poskim discuss and isolate a case where it's just hiddur. So this would be a case where this 7th candle is just hiddur. Because you're not mechuyev to light the 7th candle. You're ready, you lit the first one, you lit 6. Now you want to know, I made a mistake, I lit one candle too short. Do I make a bracha on that 7th candle? So the Pri Chadash says like this. Number 1, since it's only hiddur, the Pri Chadash says, you don't make a bracha on hiddur. And number 2, the Beis Yosef writes that you don't make a bracha. So the Pri Chadash clearly holds that you don't make a bracha on hiddur. Yeah? Now I want to show you the Beis Yosef. Because El Rabbi is medayik from the Beis Yosef that you do make a bracha on hiddur. Look at number 3.
what's it sad to say make a bracha if it's Sivanu? So, it's obvious.
Right, I would agree with that. I would agree. How do you say V'tzivanu on a hiddur? You don't have to do hiddur. Actually, you say...
That the hiddur is part of the mitzvah.
No, but here already you was a Yotze the mitzvah, right?
But if you learn that hiddur is the whole
Is the chelek of the mitzvah. But right now, did God say, I need to do this?
Where does that exist? Like, hiddur is obviously separate. That's the
Hanukkah
whole
would be
idea of
something
hiddur.
So it's the way the Rabbanon Masakin had to do the mitzvah.
Right.
So the
But
Rabbanon said you could do the mitzvah of bare minimum this way,
Right.
or you could do it more. So it's however the Rabbanon would
Formulated.
I did it, and they gave 2 out of categories.
But the thing is that this level of fulfillment, how could you say Hashem commanded us? I mean, since Hashem commanded us to listen to Chachamim, now here the Chachamim say, I didn't say I have to, they just recommend it. But since I have to listen to the Chachamim in general, and part of listening to them is following the recommendation, so it's not like...
He commanded you to light the menorah, that how they actually do that.
We're unsure how to do a kaimet, and the Rabbanon were Masakin how to do it.
Right, but here it's not mandatory. Here it's not mandatory. I don't have to do it. So how could you say V'tzivanu, that they didn't command me, they said it's a good idea, right? They said it's a good idea. So the Pri Chadash Taka says that you don't make a bracha on hiddur, because I don't have to do it. But look at the Beis Yosef for a moment, look at number 3. Kasa b'archas chayim. Mi shaloi hidlik b'leil gimel ela beis neiros. You only lit 2 on the 3rd night. Oy b'leil revi ela gimel. Zeh haya ma'isa b'luniel. This happened in Luniel. You know, who knows where Luniel is? Luniel is in France. It's a region in France, right? The Chmiru, a lot of Rishonim, right, are called Rebbe Aaron Miloniel. A lot of Rishonim have the title Miloniel. The Chmiru, so it was the 3rd night and they lit 2. The Chmiru, sheyadlik ma shechasa lahadlik. You have to light the 3rd. Ve'ein sarach levarich pam acheres. You don't have to make another bracha. Why? Ki habracha sha'asa betchila al chiyuv kol haneiros asan. The bracha you made in the beginning was on all the candles I'm eventually going to light. Like this. The guy thought it was the 2nd night. So he lit 2. And then he realized it's the 3rd and I have one more to light. So you don't have to make a bracha. Why? Because when I made the original bracha, I didn't have in mind only on these two. I had in mind whatever I'm ultimately going to light, the bracha should cover. So the reason I don't have to make a bracha is because the original bracha covered it. Now think like a lamdan here. The reason why I don't have to make a bracha is because the original bracha covered it. That's mashma. That if the original bracha, if the original bracha did not have in zin that's going to be going on all the neiros, then would I have to make a bracha on the third? Yeah. What do you mean? But it's only hider. Says Al Yarabba, it's a raya from the Beis Yosef. You do make a bracha on hider. The fact that the Beis Yosef says the reason I don't make a bracha is because when I light on the second night, and when I light on the third night, thinking it's the second night, I have in mind that the bracha is going on all the candles that I'm destined to light. If that's the only reason I'm not making a bracha on the third candle, that's mashma. That if it's on the eighth night and I just forget to make a bracha b'chlal, then I could make a bracha on the additional candles, that you do make a bracha on hider. If the svara of the Beis Yosef is because the original bracha covers everything, including the last one that I forget to light, then in a scenario where I don't make a bracha, l'chara, you would make a bracha on hider.
Last thing he says chiyuv kol aneros, but why is hider considered a chiyuv?
Yeah, so you have to say you have to say once the person was makabel to do it, so he imposed it as an obligation upon himself. But initially he was not mechayev. So bottom line, do you make a bracha on hider? So it's machlokes, the Pri Chadash and the Eliyah Rabbah. Pri Chadash says you don't make a bracha on hider, and the Eliyah Rabbah is medaik. And the Beis Yosef, the fact that the Beis Yosef says you don't make the bracha on the third candle because the original bracha covered it, that's mashma. Had you not had that svara, you would make a bracha on hider. So that's the first thing. So but right now, if I were to ask you, it's the 8th night of Chanukah, and I forgot to make a bracha, and I lit 7 candles, and now I realize, it's the 8th, should I make a bracha? What would you paskin? According to the Beis Yosef, I do, and according to Pri Chadash, you don't. You're a rabbi here. I'm asking you a shaila. I don't want to hear the answer. What's the halacha? Oh, according to this shita, not going down. I'm asking you, what do you do?
Is there a nafka
What do you do, pal? What do you do?
Is there a nafka?
No, I'm asking you a question. What do you do?
So I'm going to ask this shaila back. If I was the Rabbi Shemesher, I was thinking here, did you know it was the 8th night and you planned on lighting 8? Or you mixed up the nights? Like almost like a smear
I knew it
type
was
question.
night. I knew it was the 8th, and I forgot to make a bracha.
Then I would say you have to, because you don't have to make the bracha again, because you had the das to light all of them.
But I didn't make
so when you made the bracha,
I didn't make a bracha.
You didn't make a bracha.
Right?
So then you have to make a bracha now. You have to make a bracha now.
But that's the prichad. That's what the Beis Yosef would say.
No, I'm saying because your das.
Right now,
you never fulfilled your das.
1 second.
You said we put the obligation on yourself. You put the obligation on yourself. You knew it was the 8th night. You didn't even fulfill what you wanted to do.
1
you
second.
only lit 7 candles.
It's the 8th night of Chanukah, and I just pashut forgot to make a bracha.
Did you have kavanah?
I had kavana. Do I make a bracha on the 8th candle?
Yes.
What's new?
Question.
Yes.
I would say something bracha is the hakol.
So I will be now asking you my shilas. You're right. He got it right. That when you have a shaila in brachas and you have machlokes hapoiskim, that the Pri Chadash says you don't make a bracha on hider mitzvah, and the Eliyah Rabbah says based on the basis of you do. It's machlokes hapoiskim at a bracha. You don't make a bracha. Safek bracha is lahakel. That's the correct answer at this step of the shiur. Right? You got it. Right? There's machlokes hapoiskim whether you make a bracha on hider. Right? As Rebbe Eiger derived from the scenario of somebody who made a bracha on, let's say, the third night, only lit 2, and then has 1 to go. So, safek bracha is lahakal. But Rebbe Eiger brings in another 2 factors. Factor number 2. You ready? Says Rebbe Eiger, some brachas you make al natilas yadayim, al achilas matzah. And some you make haniach tefillin, hisatef batzitzis. Do you ever wonder why sometimes you make and why you sometimes make al? What do you say, Ari? When do you make and when do you make al? So Ari's saying very good. That when you say when do you say al?
Li is like when you're about to do the mitzvah, and al is when you did the mitzvah. You just did it.
No, al achilas matzah we make before we eat the matzah.
All until it's done before, and not those months before.
This is one of the most.
Times after. But matzah we do before.
Is the main part of the mitzvah the seif davar?
I was thinking the same thing, but then the example he gave was
mitzvah is eating matzah. So you say al achilas matzah. So because that's part of the mitzvah. Halakas neiros. I'm not so sure the hadlaka of the etzim is.
You want to know is the mitzvah?
They have 8 candles lit. Now, you're right, doing it is part of the mitzvah, but having it lit, remember we said before that it has to be lit for 30 minutes. It doesn't have to, but it has to be able to. Meaning, it's a
You want to say,
that you want.
You want to say if the mitzvah is the act, you say li. If the mitzvah is the result, then you say al. But then
No, he said the opposite. He said the opposite.
what if the results? It's li.
If it's just doing it.
Okay, so there are a lot of different svaras you could say to try to be mechalek. The Rush in Psachim says the difference between li, and al, is that a mitzvah that you do it and now it's done. It doesn't have shihoi zman. It doesn't have duration. Is al. Al natil sidayim. Okay, I did it. Now it's done. It's over. But a mitzvah that I did it, but it continues to be niskayim as time progresses, is what? Is li. Tefillin, I put it on. So now what? So let me remove it immediately. No. As I'm wearing, every second I wear it, I'm mekayim the mitzvah. Talis, every second I'm wearing, I'm mekayim the mitzvah. So one second. So let me ask you a shayla. What if I forgot to make a bracha, Mendel? If I forgot to make a bracha on a talis, and I remember, let's say by Asher Valetzion. You hear this? You forgot to make a bracha on your talis. And you remember at the end of the davening. I forgot to make a bracha on the talis. Remember the end of davening. So you make a bracha then. But I'm not putting it on then. Every second I'm wearing it, it's like I'm being mislabish and I can make a bracha. Same thing with tefillin. I didn't make a bracha in the beginning of davening. I forgot. I could make a bracha later because I'm continuously performing the mitzvah. Even when it's on. Talis I don't have to remove and put on. I can make it. Why? Because it has shihoi zman. Tefillin you're able to be mashmesh a little bit. But you don't have to remove it and then put it on. You can make a bracha. So the Shaila, the Rosh says, so why do I make lahadlik ner shel Chanukah? L'char, once I did it, it's done. I can't, right? Why do I make lih? The mitzvah is ready in the skayim. The hadlaka, we paskin, hadlaka isa mitzvah. The mitzvah is performed once I lit it. Says the Rosh, a very interesting svara, that since even though I'm mekayim the mitzvah as soon as I lit it, but, listen carefully, but the mitzvah still has duration because it has to burn for 30 minutes. So since the mitzvah has to burn or be able to burn for 30 minutes, we're going to put it in the category of tefillin and talis, of mitzvahs that have shihoi zman, and therefore we're going to say li hadlik and not al hadlakas. Says Rebbe Akiva Eiger, then maybe you can make the case that even though I already lit the Eiger mitzvah, but the fact that the Eiger mitzvah has duration, similar to talis and tefillin, even though there's a difference, because of talis and tefillin, every minute I'm wearing it, it's like I'm doing it. Mashen came by lighting the menorah. Once I did it, there's nothing left to do. Now it just has to burn on its own. But the fact that we make lih, and the Rosh compares it to talis and tefillah, not to Natil Sidayim, means even that the Eiger mitzvah has duration. So you're right, I'm up to the hiddur. But maybe I can make a bracha back on the Eiger mitzvah. What do you mean I already did the Eiger mitzvah? The same way I can make a bracha on talis and tefillin because it's nimshach, kozman that I'm being mekayim the mitzvah. So too, as long as the Eiger mitzvah is burning within the 30 minutes, I would say then, says Rebbe Akiva Eiger, that's after the 30 minutes, you don't have this svara. Because it's already over batal. Within the 30 minutes, then I could go back and make the bracha. Third svara. And we don't paskin this way, but Rebbe Akiva Eiger calls this a snif lahakel. Snif lahakel means like this. Sometimes you have a shaila, and there's a svara that we don't paskin like that svara, but you could throw it into the mix to like add fuel to the fire. Does anybody know? There are shitos. What's the halacha? What's the halacha? When do you make a bracha on your talis? Well, right, there's a klal in Erevin. Kol mitzvah bracha, kol habrachas mavarchin olav oiver las yasan. So it's stam. It's good to know. The talis is in the bag. That's oiver the oiver. It's too early. The talis is already, over your head. It's oiver the oiver. You hold it like this. You make the bracha, and then you're immediately mekayim the mitzvah. Tefillin also. You don't make it when it's in the bag. That's over there. It's too in advance. You put it on. You prime yourself to tie the knot. Right before you squeeze it, you make the bracha. The kol habrachas mavarchin oisam over lasiyasan. And if you don't make it over lasiyasan, you're out. You can't make it anymore. We paskin all brachos. If you can't make it after the fact. But there is a shita in the Rishonim that you could make it after the fact. But we don't paskin that way.
What we just said with talis.
That's because it's never over. It's never after the fact. Because whenever you're wearing it, I'm making the bracha on the next second of wearing it. But lu yitzura, there's a kiyum hamitzvah. In other words, let's say I took a lulav and I shook it and I put it down. Can I make a bracha now after? No. Some say you could. We don't paskin that way, but some say you could. So that's another svara to throw in the mix. So says Rebbe Eiger, halacha l'maisa. It's the 8th night of Chanukah, and I lit 6 candles or 7 candles, and I have 1 candle left. Can I make a bracha on the 8th candle? Says Rebbe Eiger, we're going to now say 3 svaras l'halacha why you do make the bracha. Number 1, even though the Pri Chadar says you don't make a bracha on Hiddur, but the Eiger Rabbi says you do make a bracha on Hiddur. So that's 1 svara. Now, that alone wouldn't be good because Safek bracha is haka. Number 2, the mitzvah of Ner Menorah is like talis and tefillin, that the Iker mitzvah is nimshach, so I can make a bracha after the fact. The Iker, right? In other words, I'm making the bracha on the Iker mitzvah after the fact. And number 3, stam. Some hold you can make a bracha after the fact. But says Rebbe Eiger, look in the final paragraph. He says, Ulam, this is so, okay, he says like this, you're going to need my second svara. If there's a scenario where the second svara doesn't apply, then you can't make the bracha. What would that be? I lit the first 7 candles. Oh, I didn't light the 8, make a bracha. But as I'm about to light the 8th, the first one goes out. Can't make a bracha. Why? Because I have the El Yarabba that you can make a bracha on Hiddur, but I don't have the first svara that the Iker mitzvah is being nimshach.
The first 7 go out, you mean?
Because in other words, if the first one went out, so then the Iker mitzvah ended. It's only Kozman, the first one is nimshach, so it's like I'm still wearing my talis.
The candle goes out within the first half hour, you should light it again, no?
It doesn't help.
Yeah, but I'm not mechuyev to light it again.
Wait. The first one being nimshach was only on the first candle. How does that extend to the 8th candle? Even the second.
No, because I'm making. No, it doesn't. But it's an additional. In other words, there's a svara to say as long as the first one is burning, that I can make a bracha on it. Because the same way I can make a bracha on my talis after I put it on, I can make a bracha on my tefillin after I put it on. I can make a bracha
on the first.
That svara is allowing you to make it on the first. Okay.
You should have in mind the first candle when you're lighting the 8th.
When this scenario where I'm making a bracha, yeah.
I'm not having in mind I'm lighting this one. I'm having in mind for all.
You're having in mind both. I'm having in mind I'm making a bracha like the El Yarabba. I'm making a bracha. It's like this. I'm having in mind all of Rebbe Eiger's 3 svaras. Number 1, according to El Yarabba, I can make on the 8th. According to Rebbe Eiger, possibly you can make on the 1st. And plus, there are shitas that you can make a bracha after you've already been mekayim a mitzvah.
How do we light the candles? How do we light? The way we light.
Yeah.
How do we light on day 8?
How do you light on day 8?
You're saying you light some 8, but 8 is 1. It doesn't. It's just the order. It doesn't really matter.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No. Why? That's what I'm asking. Is 8 1 or 1's 8?
He's saying if there's
you want to
always
say
1, why
the
do we
first
even
one
start
is
from 8? Why do we
Hiddur,
do a
and
countdown?
you want to have in mind that I'm Yotzei the Iker mitzvah with the last.
What's the reason for a countdown? If we only need to light 1 every night, why do we even have a countdown?
You light 1 candle.
Okay, but you got to 1 candle.
Yes.
So why can't you be Yotzei if you lit 7?
Right.
You make the bracha, so I'll be Yotzei 8.
Because I was already Yotzei the mitzvah. I was already Yotzei.
Why do we even have a countdown if we? Why do we even go?
Brachas and Amakiv.
You only have that.
I didn't have in mind to do it. I just lit it.
What are we doing?
That's a better question. That's the whole reason again.
Then you could. If you're watching your phone, you weren't Yotzei, and now you can make
I
a.
light the 7, and I'm up to the 8.
If you're watching.
Yelling at you, and then you're up to the 8, then you can make a bracha.
If you're watching your phone, you weren't Yotzei, so now you can make a bracha.
What he says is also
Same thing.
Now, if your wife's yelling at you, then there are other issues over here, okay? So, okay, I just want to show you the halacha l'maisa, the Mishnah Berurah paskins like Rebbe Eiger. Mishnah Berurah writes, look at number 6. Stam, halacha l'maisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he says, look, number 6. Hidlik ner Chanukah, v'shachach levarich al hadlakasa. Before you lit all of them, you remembered. You make all 3 brachos. Why? Rebbe Eiger. Okay. But if you lit all of them, what do you do? Shmuel, what do you do if you lit all of them? You already lit all of them.
All 7?
Yeah, all.
It's good.
No, you lit. So the 8th night you lit all 8 and you didn't make a bracha.
Oh, you lit all 8.
What do you do?
You can make a bracha if it's...
You lit all 8. Could you make a bracha? No, you lit all of them.
it's well nimshach, so you have that.
You have nimshach, but you don't have hider. You have after the fact. So you can't make a bracha. But you need you have the second svara, but you need one and two. You need hider and you need nimshach. So do you make the bracha? Lahadlik you don't make. Sha'asanisim and shachianu you can make because you're seeing it, right?
Halak you don't make because you don't have all
So
three.
chodes lahadlik you don't make.
If you lit all 8, if you have one to go, then you two could make all 3.
Even according to Beis Yosef, it holds on hider, it doesn't matter.
Even according to Beis Yosef, you make a bracha on hider,
lighting them.
but there is no hider.
Right.
No hider.
But this is burning for another half hour. Like this
What about
isn't that
Kodesh?
part of like.
So you have right. So you have you have the second svara of nimshach, but that svara alone is not going to do it. You need nimshach, and you need the svara of
You
hider.
don't have to do Eiger Yason. According to them, why can't you do bracha?
Because that's not a real svara. That's only
Why
a
do you need the
throw-in.
second?
That's a throw-in. What?
Why can't you just take it first?
Okay, so again, you're only going to make the bracha if you have both svaras. In other words, if it's the 8th night and you lit all 8 and you didn't make a bracha, but why? So they're asking, but you have the svara that the Iker mitzvah is still nimshach. The answer is you need the second svara and you need the first svara. The only way to make a bracha is if both svaras apply. They're not good enough on their own. To make a bracha, you're going to need both svaras together.
Second svara, if there's another light to light, the second svara is not yet.
No, the second svara is not good enough on its own. Because the Rebbe Eiger is not so sure of it to paskin based on it that you're going to make a bracha.
So if there's one left, you're using 1 and 2.
Right.
One left, you're using 1.
Right, you hear? I mean, you need svara 1 and 2. You only have svara 1 and 2 if what? You have one left to go. Right. So you have nimshach and you have hider.
So let me ask you. So you lit them all. Light another one. Light the 9th one. Light a 9th one.
3 then.
Right. Good question. What the answer is? There's no hider. There's no hider to light a 9th. Right? It's not a hider.
But maybe just have in mind that the first one was just shamish.
Should you still ask somebody else to have you in mind if they're light?
L'chari though, right? We would say you're yaitse.
Look, maybe the first one was a shamish. Now the one you're lighting with is a match. You're gonna blow that out.
Same thing.
You go over to your neighbor's house right after you light it. Forget to you ask him to have in mind do the bracha when he makes the bracha.
He's not doing it. They're doing it.
Why? He's making a love.
No, you don't do anything.
Why? I want to hear his bracha.
Yeah.
You can't be mishtatif in someone's bracha. You can't be mishtatif in someone's mitzvah.
No, but you lit, but you just didn't make the bracha.
So you're done. You can't buy a bracha. You can only buy. No, seriously, you could buy a mitzvah because you have a chelik in his asiyah. You want to know? It's like this. A mitzvah with a bracha is a better mitzvah than a mitzvah without a bracha. So I'll be mishtatif in his mitzvah to have a shittif in a mitzvah with a bracha. Maybe.
Even though, since you didn't make a bracha.
Since I didn't make a bracha. I don't. There are 3 svaras. The third one is just a throw-in. It's not worth it. It's not worth the priceless.
That you can make over less yosin.
Yeah, that you don't need to make it over last yosin. You don't need it. I mean, it's just a throw-in. But the Lamaisa. So guys. So if the halacha Lamaisa, if the 8th night and you lit all 8. So you have the second svara, you don't have the first svara. It's the 8th night you lit 7, but the first one went out. You have the first svara that you have hider, but you don't have the second svara of nimshach. So Mishnah Berurah paskins this way. Look at number 7. Mishnah Berurah says that ulam and the imkaidim the hilik neres and asafos kavu harishainos la yevarech rak ala nisim shachianu. Look, and why? He says you have to see Rebbe Eiger. So we did. We saw Rebbe Eiger.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.